Also, we were talking downstairs before we came in about the ways in which you think that masculinity, in a sense, is called into question. This is a discussion about feminism, truth and lies, but this is also has to be a conversation about masculinity and what that might mean. So you can answer either of those. You can forget about the happiness and just do the masculinity, or whichever way.
Well, the Happiness Project one, I think, is part of the earlier piece of the backlash. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the idea that, Arianna Huffington, again, has done the third metric, that we should be measuring our lives and our success or achievement, or whatever word you want, in terms of what makes us fulfilled. And the answer to that is rarely just another rung on the career ladder, or more money or more power. It is the sum total of our relationships as human beings, and our appreciation of beauty. And I get more pleasure watching my birds at the bird feeder every morning than through countless things I do later in the day. I'm going to make time to do that, or my first cup of coffee, or the site of the Princeton campus, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world. So I think that, again, that's just the pendulum swinging back, and we do need it. We've gotten way, way, way out of whack. Men and masculinity.
Yeah.
So
this is a new book, right? This is
what I'm writing about in my book, and as the sister of two brothers and the mother of two sons, particularly as the mother of two sons, I think about this a lot. And this goes exactly to truth and lies, because as feminist women, we want to be equal. But if you say to us, yeah, but you know what, male CEOs have full-time caregivers at home. Find me a male CEO who has a family, who has a wife or a partner, who is not the lead caregiver. I defy you to find me that person. So then you say to the same women, so if we want to be CEOs, yes, we're superhuman and all that stuff, but you know what? Actually, you can't really expect us to do 24/7 jobs any differently than the guys do. So if we're going to be there and we're going to be in those top positions, we need a lead caregiver at home, as I have. I mean, my husband obviously has a full-time job, that's great, but he's the lead parent, because I could not be the lead breadwinner if he were not the lead parent. I simply couldn't. Somebody's got to be home. I mean, even at 15 and 17, actually, particularly at 15 and 17, somebody has to be home.
Yeah, right.
As we discovered, we saw The Doll's House last night, we came home, our 15-year-old had been home alone, somebody ought to be home. So,
the place was trash.
A bit. Pizza boxes, we won't go there. So then you say, okay, so you want to be the CEO or the president of the university or the surgeon or the scientist, whatever. You've got to marry somebody who is willing to support you in the homework, the family work, in the way he's going to support you. Believe me, you're not going to be able to do what you want to do without him, but that's probably what you're going to have to do. And maybe you'll trade off, but he's going to have to do that part of the time. And at that point, many women get off the bus. They don't want to marry a guy like that. They don't think a guy like that is masculine. Indeed, the guys who do that, I know I'm in Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is the home of, Brooklyn gives the lie to all this. There are more stay-at-home dads here than probably anywhere else in the U.S., or work-from-home dads, or lead caregiver dads, or however you want to put it. But in most places in the U.S., those dads report that the women they engage with on the playground think they're a little odd. Do not think of them as a model of masculinity. We can't have it both ways, right? Just as I was told growing up, don't be too smart. Don't be too smart around a guy. He won't want you. Well, right, that vision of femininity had to change. It had to change. Guys had to think that women who were powerful and smart and competitive were attractive, because otherwise we couldn't do it. Well, you know what? We have to think that a guy who puts his family first, that a guy who says, no, I want to be the lead parent. I'm going to defer a promotion. I'm not going to be the most powerful guy out there. We have to say, you are a masculine, valued, wonderful man. And if we can't get there, we are not going to make this kind of change, because we've gotten as far as we can get without doing that. We've got 15% of unbelievable super women who get really lucky, right, or who have a lot of money, or who are just really superhuman, who manage to make it work, but we're not going to get further than that. So it's really about changing the way we think about it. It's not only, but a lot of it is about changing how we think about men and what we think a masculine, attractive guy is.
That's the question for the coming generation, as it were.
Yep.
That's going to, okay.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those videos. Okay, so if you're looking for a short video, this might not be the one that you would listen to. Now, the clip you just heard was from Anna Marie Slaughter talking about the feminist double standard. And while the two things might not match up, toxic masculinity and the feminist double standard, in most people's minds, guess what? You know me, I'm an analyst. And I don't see the world the way most people see the world. Most people see the term toxic masculinity as an attack on men. And I would say that is a secondary effect. Like most propaganda, it's actually wrapped up in something juicy. Attacking men is juicy. It's like wrapping medicine in a spoonful of sugar. Makes the medicine go down. But what is the medicine? What is the message that is really, really going on? That's really trying to be delivered, and to whom? That is where the previous clip comes into play. You heard Anna Marie saying that feminism, or the feminist policies as we have known them over the last 50, 60 years, have gone as far as they can go. You've brainwashed the boys, you brainwashed the men into accepting the feminist policy. And for it to get further, women are going to have to change their view of masculinity, not change masculinity itself. They've already done that for their, what they believe is that their significant part of the population. You're not going to change all men. You're going to change enough. And that's the key. Changing enough men to play a supportive role. Now, I've read several books, more than several books. I've read about 10 books talking about this. And it always comes back to the same thing. Reading these kind of books, reading these kinds of things is getting women to accept the policy, accept the program. Women have a binary as far as relationships are concerned, as far as the men that they like, per se. They have a binary in relationship. Either you're the man that leads them or you're the child that follows. Either you're the man that leads or the child that follows. That's the only two things in a woman's biology that she will accept. And what you have is women's biology in full display. Women feel, they don't think. They might think that this man is necessary, that this man fits my agenda, but they don't feel that he's masculine. They don't feel that he's a man, and they don't feel that he's acceptable. So all the feminist planning, thinking, conditioning that they've done has largely been targeted at the men. The policies have always been targeted at the men, the vast majority of it, tamping down the men, which is what the government actually wants. But the other half has been conditioning the women to take that role. What is the part that they have missed? They've brainwashed the men, brainwashed the boys into accepting female dominance. Not all, but enough. So all you guys that out there bullshitting, saying, hey, I don't accept female dominance, or what we like to call female equality, which is basically female dominance, I ain't talking to you. You're the one they call toxic. I'm talking about the significant portion of men that have been feminized and will accept female dominance, or at least tolerate female dominance. Problem is, they can't get women to accept those guys. These women look at them as what they are, which are feminized males, which are less masculine than normal males. And while they fit the agenda that they need them for, you know, in the what they call the beta male syndrome, or the beta male arrangement. Remember, alpha fucks beta bucks? They will accept these men in that role, but they don't accept them as masculine. They accept them as a subordinate. They accept them as quasi-children. And that's the issue. That's why a lot of women don't get married to these guys. That's why marriage to these guys, or marriage today, is so difficult. You want to have female dominance, but you don't accept male submission. So that is the conundrum that we face. So what now is the remedy? How do you brainwash the females to accept these brainwashed males? You, just like she said, you have to change women's view of masculinity. How do you do that? The age-old thing. Religion has been doing it for years. How do you get people to reject what you feel is an unwanted outcome or unwanted attribute? You label it evil. You label it bad. For female dominance, regular masculinity is not acceptable. It's going to cause a problem. So what do? You label it bad. You label it toxic. Toxic masculinity is just regular old run-of-the-mill male behavior. That's all it is. But if you label it regular old male behavior, women will not accept the ones that you have feminized or that you have brainwashed. So what's going to happen eventually? The brain is going to undo the brainwashing of the males, and they're going to turn the feminist agenda, feminist policies on its head. So you have to convince the females that regular male behavior is toxic, that it's bad, that it's evil, and the supportive, supportive, feminized males that accept female dominance is good, is normal. Those are your good guys. That's how come you get labeled. The feminists actually label these guys good men and label regular old male behavior and men that practice male behavior as toxic, as misogynist, as bad. That's how come when you ask a woman what is toxic masculinity, she can't describe it. It's all over the place. Well, men are more, toxic masculinity is aggression. Normal male behavior is aggressive. It's supposed to be assertive, aggressive. That is what normal male behavior is. That's what normal males are being taught, to be aggressive, to be assertive. That's what women like. What else is toxic masculinity? Not looking at a woman as the same or equal. Wanting a woman to have the normal gender roles. That is normal male behavior. That's what you're taught. Men are not taught to seek safe spaces. Men are taught to provide safe spaces for their protected class, which is their women and children. Normal male behavior is to think first and feel second. They have feminized men and boys to feel first and think second. And for these men that have been acceptable for female dominance to feel first, which is more emotional intelligence, which is what female dominance needs. If you're going to be dominant and you live in a masculine world and you come on with a masculine stance, you have to think, and you need somebody that can feel, which is not normal for men. Men do feel, but it's secondary. So now a man that thinks first and feels second is toxic. Men that don't accept female dominance is toxic. Men that don't accept female leadership is toxic. And who are they feeding that message to? Now the women spill over, and it spills over out of their mouths, but it's brainwashing the women to accept what? A different form of masculinity. I can show you 100 different versions of the same thing, not saying toxic, but how they need to change or basically redesign masculinity. Code word, not necessarily changing the men, but how women see masculinity. Because they don't come in front of a bunch of guys, tell them they're going to change masculinity, because they know that's not going to fly. They tell women. Why do they tell the women? Because they're trying to brainwash the women to accept men that go against their own biology. They've already done it to the guys to accept roles that are not conducive with their biology. So you have things like IBMOR, MGTOW, MRA, and a few other red pill things that pop up because it goes against, that kind of training goes against men's biology. But if the feminist agenda is to be saved, if it is to proceed beyond this point, then they're going to have to brainwash the sisters, brainwash the women. So we get a full frontal attack, outright attack on masculinity as it sits, as it stands. Not to change the men, but to change how women think. That is the Trojan horse. That is the Trojan horse of toxic masculinity. It looks like it's attacking men, but it's actually attacking the psyche of women. Don't believe me? Read the literature. Check it out for yourself. Who are they talking to? Are they talking to you as a man? Or are they trying to convince women with their slogans and their rhetoric? That's all I got for this one. This is BGS out, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.